talk about it again.
Yes, let's go through all that again. So how have you been?
I've been doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah.
Good. So you're living in Nashville. You're working here at Integrity, writing songs.
My favorite place.
Yes.
Literally this room.
Yeah.
So many songs have come out of this room.
Yeah. You're here till late night
Yep.
sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Writing songs.
Yeah.
What are some stories behind some of the songs that you've written that have just been
So a few of them have been written so far that were released earlier in the year, and they will go on the full length, but we've just started now writing for the full length. So the past 2 weeks we've been writing. I remember I walked into some of the co-writes last week and this week, and I said, okay guys, I either want to write songs from a place I've been or from a place I need to go, because I think sometimes we forget we don't just need songs in the moment, but we need songs to help us move forward. And so that's been like kind of in the back of my mind with all these co-writes. But it's so interesting, like even yesterday we spent most of the afternoon on song, great melody, and then we were stuck on a line. And I remember my songwriter, Michael Fan, that I was writing with, he just wanted me to kind of like talk through it, flesh out like what I was feeling, or like, because I'm not as good with like just coming up with the lyric, but I can come up with what I want to say or the feel of it. And I had said something about safe, just feeling safe, and all of a sudden that like triggered. He's like, okay, wait a minute. And so he comes and sits down at the piano, and then for the next 2 hours we write a song called Safe. Wow. and it's like, there are some songs where you get up from the writing session and you're like, this can be good and we can work on it, be crafted. And then there are some songs that I've gotten up from and it was like, this is it. Like, this is a song. So I'm excited. I feel like of all the co-writes in the past couple of weeks, like yesterday was such a moment. We walked up and we said, this is going on the record. So that's a cool feeling. And I tend to get attached to like spaces I'm in where you write songs like that. It's like it just becomes part of the processing experience and the song itself. And so it's cool that we're doing this in this room, because this is a special room to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the EP came out earlier this year, and you're working on the full-length album. So how many songs are going on that? How many have been written so far? So
for the EP, we did 6 songs, and then the full length typically is at least 10. I always like to push the boundaries, because the EP was going to be 5, and I was like, come on, 6. Let's do 6. Come on. So they let me do 6. So I'm like, we have to do 11. We have to do 11. Yeah. Even if it's kind of an odd number.
Yeah.
But like, I want, especially because we'll take 4 songs from the EP and put them on the full length. Okay. So we need about basically 7 more, and for sure 1 was written yesterday, so we've got 6 more songs. And and like I said, like some songs you walk away from co-writes and you just have tears in your eyes and you just know that this is a song that you're going to carry the rest of your days. But then there are other songs. There's a song on my last one called As It Is in Heaven, and I walked away from that co-write and I was kind of scratching my head. I was like, I'm not sure about this song. There was something really powerful, but it took me a little longer to kind of find my voice and the way I was going to carry it. And then once I locked into it, it's a big song. And so I'm like, so some of these co-writes that have been happening, I think, some of those songs will develop as we're in the studio and we start tracking, and like the production side of things can really bring certain things to life. But you always want to, like, I'm like, you can do so much magic in the studio, but you always want to make sure you start with a great song. Right. Forget a good song, great song. So yeah, so that's what
Michael
we're chasing.
Farron is producing.
Yeah, so Michael, he did my EP, and then he's doing my full length, and he's in this town probably the one that I sit down the most and write songs with. He and I feel music so similarly. So like a lot of times if I'm singing a melody, he'll already kind of be playing where I'm gonna go. Okay. And it's pretty rare to find someone that like is so in sync musically like that. So it has been a dream.
Do you guys have any like rituals or kind of things that you do to get in the songwriting zone, or sometimes?
There are probably just habits we have. Like typically Whole Foods is part of our day at some point, because I have a lot of food allergies, and I feel really bad. Like I make everybody go to Whole Foods at some point during the day. If you want a meeting with me, or we want a break, then that's the place I'm going to go. With food allergies, it's just the easiest place to get snacks, and we'll get juice and we'll get coffee and more coffee and more coffee.
Yes.
This whole process is a lot of coffee.
Based on coffee.
Yeah, pretty much. Just stay caffeinated. Then once you're done making the record, like sleep it off for about a week, and then get back on track. So.
So once you kind of get into this record, where do you want to see it go? Like, what's the focus on it? I know you've gone through a lot. Your story is so inspiring, so encouraging, of someone who has been in some very deep and dark places, and you've had to walk through a lot of things. How is that reflected on the album, and are you going to go in a lighter direction on some points, or just keep it to where it's very inspiring?
Yeah, so you know a lot about my story. I went through really like a heavy 10-year period in life where I went through loss of my father, loss of my son, and then battling Lyme disease. And so that it's just so much suffering, and then so much, there's been a lot of doubt, and there's been a lot of anger, and there's just been a lot of just loneliness at times, and when you're going through some of that isolation, and then learning how to move forward. I never say move on, especially with grief. You know this. You don't move on, but you learn how to move forward, even if it's baby steps. And so I've always felt this, like, I don't know if it's responsibility is the right word, but I've always felt this responsibility, for lack of a better word, of sharing so much of that for people who are walking through that now. And so much of my songs is I may not specifically write like detailed about certain losses, because I want it to be accessible to anybody going through a hard time, whether it's loss or disease or there are so many things that are happening in people's lives, in my friends' lives. So if I can write a song about how to move forward through that, how to get your feet back on the ground, encourage people to be around community. That's been a big thing for me. During kind of the early season of losing my father, which was kind of like where the ground kind of split beneath my feet, there was such a season of denial, which is a bit normal. And I remember getting to this place, like mentally, where I was like, if I can't have life the way I had it before, I just don't want it anymore, because everything reminded me of him. And so it took me a long time to walk back into that world, and just I'm a Christian, so I have a lot of prayer and a lot of support from my church family, and I think since that season I've been such a encourager of community, and making sure you stay plugged into the people around you, reach out, let others reach in. But music does the same thing. I feel like I have a lot of friends who write fun, poppy, upbeat things that I need when I'm driving down the road at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But what I know best is those 1 a.m. hours of life is too much, and this is overwhelming, and I don't know how I'm going to get through this moment, let alone this hour. And I feel like I can write a song for that hour. I feel like that's the biggest thing I can offer people, is I know that hour so well. When you feel like it's over, or you almost wish it was. And so if I can give something to them in that moment to help them keep going, that means more than any of this. I mean, honestly.
Wow.
So,
what a gift to be able to offer the world through this music. And it reaches it beyond what you could ever even know. Because you'll never know who might hear a song in that hour, and it touches their heart and gets them through. Because there's a lot of things about life that we don't understand. And we've both faced, you and I. Right. We did a photo shoot together a couple years ago, and realized that we both had a similar loss, and have matching tattoos of our loss, and had and I feel like in losing an infant, stillborn, miscarriage, any of those type of loss of a child that we both have walked through, and you carried your son knowing that you weren't going to get to have a life with him. And my son was an unexpected loss. So you're just going about preparing for a baby, and then all of a sudden you realize there's not going to be one.
Everything changed.
Right. And so I know during my moments of not understanding, when you hold a lifeless baby in your arms, there's really no explanation. there's no real comfort in it.
There's no good answers for that. There's,
right.
Yeah.
It's tough. It sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you have to be real about it in that this just doesn't make sense. Yeah. But like you said, in that hour where you just feel like, I don't even want to keep going, then there's a moment where you have to just make up your mind and choose,
oh my gosh,
I'm going to keep going.
I've had so many interviews lately, and they always ask me, like, what can you share with our listeners who are going through hard times? And I'm like, there's so many things you can say, but I've said this over and over and over, just keep going. Those three words, like, just keep going, because and it sounds like simple, and it may not be like deep or profound, but you just get to this place where you're like, there's no reason why I should. Yeah. There's no reason why I even want to. Mm-hmm. But and I speak personally, I was like, I just knew I had to keep going. And for me, I was like, I know my story is not done here. Mm-hmm. I know the Lord is still writing my story. And so I don't want to take that chance away from him.
Right.
And I think there was just a hope. I just hope that in the morning, not that the circumstances are going to change that dramatically, but especially with grief, what I've learned is, like, initially it's like, I imagine like an elephant sitting on top of me, where I'm just like, I just can't, I'm just paralyzed. Yeah. In grief and fear and loss, all those things. But I think over time I've learned that it doesn't necessarily get easier, the pain, but you just learn to carry it differently. And so now I can walk and I can carry it, and it still hurts so bad. Right. But it doesn't crush me the way it did, like when it was right after. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm able to even talk about it with other people who are more in those fragile moments.
Yeah. And choosing to celebrate, I think there's a difference between denial of, like, oh, I'm just going to be, like, go through this and it's all okay. Like, it's all going to be okay. I'm in denial and not really dealing with the pain. Yeah. It's okay to deal with that pain and even feel like you're depressed. And
it's human.
Right, it is human. It's normal. But to choose to also celebrate what life was in it, like what you did with your son, where you went places and took pictures while you were your pregnancy.
It was such a perspective thing for me, and I think there was this moment of, with our story, we thought we can focus on what's going to happen at the end, or we can focus on right now. Yeah. And for my specific story, my son was alive until he would be born, which is, even just to think, it's a lot to mentally process. Yeah. But I was like, right now in this moment, he's alive. I can feel him. He kicked. Like, I was like, I'm going to celebrate this moment, and I was aware of what was going to happen, and in all the ways possible, I've I don't want to say honored his death, but I knew it was coming. But I wanted to make the most of his life, even if it was just while he was in the womb, and all of 71 minutes that when he was born, that he was alive outside the womb. And I look at it as what I've been given, and not just what has been taken away. And I think sometimes people can look at you when you go through grief like that, and they just see the heartbreak. But there is so much, even with the loss of my dad, I would do anything to have him back in my life. But I'm like, oh, if you guys could meet him, you would know why I can think back and smile about it. Because I'm like, I wish I had him for 60 years. I only had him for 20, but they were an amazing 20 years. He taught me so much. I fell in love with music because of him. Wow. So,
celebrating what we have and the life that we do have. And that was part of why I had that tattoo done, was because I wanted to celebrate my son Judah's life and the time I did have with him, and let that be special and let that be what it was for that time.
And we know where they are.
Yeah.
So
we do.
There's a peace. There's a peace that comes with that.
Yes. So, in your everyday life now, what are some things that are kind of important to you? Where are you feeling like you're at right now? Obviously, that season of pain and loss you're in a different place. Yeah. And so, not that you don't carry that with you.
Oh yeah.
But where are you at now? What's in your heart right now? What inspires you, and what kind of is driving you right now?
What drives me the most right now is probably people. I love music, but there's such a joy that I've had since I was a little girl, sitting down at a piano and like, I could do that I could literally do that and have the same joy if it was just me and sitting in a room by myself. I think what drives me to do what I'm doing now is people. I see people going through things that we've walked through, as well as just like I love to love on people, and music is such a way that gets me to that. It connects me, it takes me on the road, and it's night after night, venue after venue, and it's so interesting when you show up to a venue, and it's like just this past weekend I went to Wisconsin, and someone from the venue, they picked me up and they were taking me to the event, and it's like you're strangers, but you kind of want to quickly get to know each other, and then it's like by the end of the weekend, it's like you're old friends. We were texting and miss you and all this stuff, and it's amazing how music and of course I share so much story in the songs. It's just amazing how it connects you to somebody else, and I mean, people really drive it. They inspire, and I like to write, with their permission, about other people's stories as well. And though we all walk through difficult times, everybody goes through it differently. There's just there's different circumstances, and there's different ways that people view things. That the more that others share with me, it helps me of how I walk through life. And I'm.
The traveling that's happening more.
Yes,
you got to go to Europe.
Yes, it's been probably the most fun. So I of this whole like music process, being on the road, I come to life. Wow. I can function very well out of a suitcase and getting to a hotel at 12 o'clock at night, and then packing up at 6 a.m. and getting back on the road. And I love it. It's like insanity for other people, but for me, it's like it's sanity. I love that routine. So that's my happy place, is being able to deliver the songs and meet people. And part of my travels, we did a radio tour all fall. So we were pushing my single, which is My Prayer for You. And then amidst that, I had the most dreamlike opportunity to go to Europe. So I went to London for the majority of the trip, and then we went to Holland. And it was amazing. Integrity, which is my label, they have a UK division out there. And so they kind of brought me out, and we went to, there was a book that was released about actually infant loss. And so there was a ball that I attended for that. So got to connect with her, and then did a lot of media stops, and sang some songs for people. And
what was your favorite place?
It was interesting. So, I mean, the two main places we were in was London and kind of some small like towns around London, and then Holland. London felt like almost like America in certain ways. Like it was very like Western. I'm like, there's a Chipotle, and I just saw an Anthropology, and then the Starbucks is everywhere. So I'm like, and I found like the only two Whole Foods in that entire region. I found them both. I was like a child in a candy shop. I'm like, yes, vegetable juice. It was ridiculous. But then we went to Holland, and it's like totally different, like world change. So like, so of course I couldn't, like everything is in their language. So like, at least in London, everyone speaks, English and stuff. So I couldn't understand anyone in Holland, but we had someone travel with us. But of course, traveling with food allergies can be a little tricky in a place like Holland. You can't read the packaging, so I'm like, just somebody throw me an apple or something. I'll just pick some grass outside and make a salad. That'll be safe. But the funniest thing was, so it was towards the end of the trip when we went to Holland, and I was exhausted. Earlier in the week when I was in London, I had gotten food poisoning. First time I'd ever gotten it. I was pretty weak. So back to food allergies. So when I'm on the road, I travel with a cooler, and I have lots of food in it. So we'll find like a grocery store, I'll throw food in the cooler, and at night in the hotels, I'll just put it in the fridge. Well, in London and all these places we went to, they don't do fridges in hotels. It's just not something they really do. Okay. So I kept having to put ice on it. And some of the days we were driving so much that I couldn't keep it cold. But then I was hungry. And so I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. I literally remember we were at a gas station, and I opened it up and I start pulling some things out. And I have this thought, this feels a little room temperature to me. It's a little bit warm. The ice is totally watered. So there was vegetables, and then it was, I think it was chicken and vegetables. Okay. And I was like, it feels a little bit warm, but I'm like, I've never gotten sick before. I'd never had food poisoning. Yeah. So like, I just thought, chances are good. Like I'm going to be fine. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was horrible. So I was in a hotel. We had to cancel one of the days, and but the label was very kind. They sent rescue, and so that was that. Got back on my feet for the rest of the week. But once we were in Holland, it was a Thursday, and we were flying out Friday, and it was on a Thursday, and I was just exhausted. And so I was at a radio station. We were doing the interview and singing the song, and I told the guy that was with me, the creative director here, Jason Jones. I said, I really, really, really need coffee, please. And in Holland, there just isn't. It's not as accessible. Like you don't see Starbucks everywhere, things like that. And so, and of course with food allergies, I'm like, I have to have, so it's got to be espresso, you have to find almond milk, and if you can find like vanilla syrup. So he's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go get you coffee. So he goes out. So he does find a place that does espresso, but apparently in Holland they don't use ice for it. They don't put ice in their drinks. So he kept asking. He was going around. He was asking for ice, and in Holland they assume it's ice cream. So then he gets sent to an ice cream shop. So he finally. So I think it was at the ice cream shop that they found vanilla syrup. So they put vanilla syrup in the espresso, but still no ice. So he goes to another store to find ice. And so by the time he comes back, he's got all these like grocery items from like different stores. It was just absolutely hilarious. He's like concocting this like iced coffee drink, and it was so bad. Like by the time like the almond milk was really warm, but I'm like, it was everything I needed. so I'm like, you know what? There are other great memories from going to the UK, but that one like kind of tops the cake for me. It was hilarious and a lot of fun, and I can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
I feel like over here we're pretty saturated with artists in music, especially in this town. But like, I mean, there's always somebody coming into your town wherever you are, doing a show, whether it's a big stadium or it's like a small local venue. Versus over there, it's just not as common, and so they're a little bit more anxious for it. They welcome it a lot more quickly, and I mean, you say you're going to do music, people are going to come. You don't have to worry about playing. I mean, over here, I mean, it's been a long time, but there was a venue that I played empty. Nobody came. And this is probably like 15 years ago. And that was such a moment for me because I remember thinking, okay, this can really make or break you. Like, how bad do I want to do this career and this passion and stuff? And it was a decision I made in that moment. I said, you know what? I love to play the piano. I love to sing the songs, even if it's to nobody. I'm going to enjoy this. So I did. And I've, of course, done it ever since. But over there, people are going to come. So I can't wait to go back.
Do you think Nashville is oversaturated with music, or what's your...
I think Nashville is they are everywhere. It's interesting. There's so many artists here that don't really play out in Nashville because this is home. And so I don't necessarily think it's like oversaturated in that kind of way. I think this is like the hub. This is where everyone comes to write the songs, like in this room. And we go home and we come off the road and we're going to do laundry and grocery shop and go to the bank, go to the pharmacy, all these things you can't do when you're on the road. And so I think it's a good home for artists because you're around so many similar people who really get it, who get like the sacrifice it is, like the amount, my husband is home a lot when I'm traveling, and he's used to it. I met him because of traveling, so he's used to life on the road, but it is a sacrifice. And I learned very early on with marriage and just with a lot of things, it's really like quality of time versus quantity. And I love that because it just makes you appreciate things more. But it's, everyone has to be on the same page in your life, but I love it here.
So Nashville, you think you'll stay around?
This is home for me. Yeah, I had lived here. It was right when I was 20, and I had gone to college for like a year and a half. And at the end of the day, I was always sitting at the piano. And so I remember thinking, I know I have to do music, and I knew I wasn't supposed to major in it. I knew it was something I had to follow my heart on this. So it was a Wednesday night, and I've told this story recently. It was just how I remember it. It was Wednesday, and I packed up my car. And I started driving to Nashville, and it was about an hour outside of Nashville. I called my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, I moved. I'm almost to my new city. I don't have any money. I don't have a place to stay. So he put me up in a hotel. And I stayed in Nashville for about a year. And towards the end of that year is when he passed away. But I remember when I was moving back to Raleigh to help my family, and I remember having this thought when I was driving away. I was like, I know I'm going to come back here. It just always felt like home. And even way back then, I couldn't plug into the industry at that time. It just wasn't working. Everyone loved me. They didn't know what to do with me. So I didn't have this like intention on moving back here knowing I was going to do some kind of career. If it just stayed small like it had been, house shows, small venues on the weekends, like I would still enjoy and love that. But there was just such a warmth in this town. There's just a beautiful community, and you've got like 65 that way is the city, 65 that way is beautiful hills. So I'm like, this is the best of both worlds. And then it just wonderfully happened that I ended up finally finding a place for me as an artist and my art and my heart and my passion. So.
Yeah, the art and even the food scene here is great.
Yeah, I
What's
love
your
it.
favorite restaurant where you can find gluten-free
Favorite? That is a tough one.
Yeah.
The tough one is the soy allergy. I'm always the lone ranger on that one because I'm like, now restaurants are like really good with gluten allergy. I'm like, they have separate gluten menus everywhere, gluten-free. But the soy allergy is tricky. So I tend to say, whatever is your best steakhouse, that's where I want to go.
Okay.
They're usually really good at whipping something up.
Yeah.
So.
What about Wild Cow? Have you been there?
I have not been there. Was that?
It's in East.
In East Nashville.
Yeah.
Oh man, East Nashville is so cool.
It is.
I almost feel like I wouldn't be cool enough to go live in that area. I'm like, they
cool
are
enough
so
to be
cool
Nashville.
and like just
Yeah.
vibey, trendy.
Right?
Like I've really got to dress it to the nine when I'm down there.
Somebody said hot cocoa, and you have a relationship.
Quite the relationship. A long-standing relationship.
You're a hot cocoa addict?
Yes,
Besides
pretty
coffee?
much. So I used to never drink coffee until I learned how to just ask Starbucks for espresso and vanilla, and then I just. So on a lot of people will see on Instagram stories, like when I'm on the road, I'll walk into Starbucks and I have this big jug of almond milk, and I'm just making my own drink at their counter, and I'm like I'm the weirdo, but I'm like, hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
So recently I'm like, okay, I've gotten back into the coffee game, but I have a cup of hot cocoa every single day. It's like, we all have our things, our vices. Hot cocoa is mine.
Okay. And cows?
And cows. I love cows. And I really do not even know why, because I'm not a vegan. I eat steak, and I tell people, at least I eat it gently, and I enjoy every bite of it. And in my mind, I just go to this ridiculous place of perhaps this cow just passed away of natural causes. I don't know, but I love them. They are the most gentle, patient creatures who just stand around and eat grass all day, and I just love them. I'm like a child. I get so excited when I see them. I know. I've said that myself.
Yeah.
I need a cow. If this music thing really takes off, watch out.
You couldn't drink its milk, but...
No, I know. I can't drink its milk, but I will love it. Oh, I will love it. Yep. Yep.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you.
This is awesome.
Yeah, you're amazing. You're so humble, and you're so real and accessible, but so talented.
Thank you.
You really are.
Thank
you really
you.
are. I mean, your songs just come from such an honest and sincere place that I don't know how people couldn't connect with them. It's just
so much.
You are. I feel like you're just now getting the attention that you've deserved for a long time, and I'm so glad because your music just has the ability to reach so many people, and I can't wait to see.
You can make me
takes
cry.
You.
That means the world to me. Thank you.
I really do. I really can't wait to see where it takes you, and
Me
globally.
too. I know.
This is just the wheels. This is just
Crazy.
the track that for it to go on. And so, to me, that's just an amazing thing to see where it leads.
I can't wait to see.
I love the place that you're in now. I think that it's a good place, that I can see it in you. I can see the strength that's there, the maturity that's come out of the places that you've been.
Yep.
And
life tends to do that to you.
It does. It does,
Yeah.
So, we're both growing. We're both learning every day, but I feel like we've both kind of seen each other grow in a lot of ways. That's been cool. And the community of Nashville, and just even this friendship, and the different people that we know, and kind of
they embrace you with whoever you are, whatever you've got going on. They take you in as their own. Yeah.
That's really special and unique.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. I love it. Thank you.